we should cut back our burning of fossil fuel, that's mainly coal, to about 2/3 of what we are now using. And the remainder should be largely nuclear energy based on these better kinds of reactors that I speak of. That would entail, between now and the year 2040, 2050, an increase in the number of nuclear reactors throughout the world from the present roughly 500. There are about 500 large nuclear reactors throughout the world. An extraordinary number for a guy like me who was there when there were no nuclear reactors. In fact, we didn't have a chain reactor. And here I'm still alive and there are 500 nuclear reactors. It's really quite extraordinary. That includes those that are still under construction. So I would recommend, and in the speech I make the proposal, that we go from 500 nuclear reactors to 5,000 nuclear reactors, 10 times as many nuclear reactors. These would have to be of this newer type, which are immune from the kind of problem that we encountered with Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island. And I think we can afford this, and I think it's not a crazy scenario. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. I guess my feeling about the matter is, although I place this scenario in the context of global warming and say that this is really what has to be done in order to combat global warming, I think that it makes sense anyhow to move very heavily towards nuclear energy, whether or not global warming is an issue, because in my opinion, it makes sense to develop these nuclear reactors that are inherently safe. I should point out that the scenario that I project does involve an enormous amount of conservation. Some of you may have listened to the orators at Earth Day. Remember, Earth Day was just a week ago. And I was astonished, and I must say appalled, by the fact that one orator after another got up and said, greenhouse is practically here, it's going to get worse, we got to do something about it. What can we do? Well, they said you can plant trees. Yes, you can plant trees, but you can't plant anywhere near enough trees. In fact, the idea of planting trees was originated at our Institute for Energy Analysis by a famous physicist, Freeman Dyson. Some of you may have heard of him. And we've made the estimates. You can't plant enough trees, but it's good to plant trees. Wonderful. It gives people a feeling that they're doing something about it. The second thing you should do is move toward solar energy. Again, I think that's great. In fact, one of the few claims to fame I have in my young life was when I was in the White House at the height of the energy crisis. The one thing that our little Office of Energy Research and Development did was we said, look, we got to do solar seriously, and therefore we have to establish the Solar Energy Research Institute, and that actually has been established, and we have a Solar Energy Research Institute. But I remain very agnostic about solar energy. Great, do whatever you can. I don't think it'll do the trick. But finally, and this was the real darling of the orators, was we must conserve. And the conservation was very extreme. Now, when I talked to my good friend Professor Liu, who was an expert from China, I mean, he's a professor from China, happens to be here in Oak Ridge now, I say, look, can China become developed? Can China deal with the population problem if you adopt that conservation scenario? He says, we in China laugh at the prescriptions that are offered to us by outsiders from the West who don't really understand anything about China. And so it is my belief that, and as I say, my great disappointment that I heard nobody at Earth Day who even whispered the possibility that nuclear energy had any relevance to the greenhouse effect.